On the other side of the small continent, winter was fading, and spring was beginning to bloom. The Varanian forest was still covered in a mix of slush and snow, but green grass was poking through the cold ground, and the tall trees above them were starting to bud. Birds sang a bright song, as the new smell of spring was well on the wind, and a golden sunlight trickled through the thawing woodland. Atop this hill was a boy, a timid young man of 15 with green hair, sallow skin and golden eyes. He was far thinner than most fairies, and despite the thrilled smile on his face, it was obvious that this was a child who was very sick. Dark lines ran under his eyes, and his cheekbones jutted out under his skin. His wings, which sparkled black with the dusting of gold, flickered once in excitement, before disappearing. "Ready, Ali?" He was riding a magnificent creature, a great golden griffin with sparkling brown eyes. His mount showed nothing of the shy nature the boy had. She was strong, and obviously very proud, maybe a little too much. A single look at her sent many of the forest creatures scattering, though she had yet to reach 16. Her limbs were rippled in muscle, covered in shining feathers on her front legs, and beautiful yellow fur on the haunches. The griffin was large for her age, and her noble gilded wings were wrapped protectively around the legs of her rider. The griffin's feathers had been slicked down with oil on her underside, which dripped onto the snow. Her expression seemed permanently embedded in a ferocious glare, but when she looked back at her companion, her gaze softened. "Ready, Keanu," she responded eagerly. "Then here we go!" The fairy cheered and leaned forward, grasping onto the griffin's feathers. The griffin leapt zealously into the snow, landing on her stomach. Her oiled feathers slid off the slush and ice, and they began hurtling down the giant hill at a monstrous speed. The two teenagers screamed in exhilaration. They nearly slammed into several trees and even ran into a bush during their ride, though Ali was so large she merely crushed it and kept on going. While they whirled by, they heard an old red bird named Scarlet groan, "Oh no, they're going changer-sledding again!" Animals yelled in terror as they were nearly crushed by the speeding griffin. A white wolf walked into their path by accident, and Keanu cried, "Kenai, watch out!" The she-wolf's eyes widened. She tried to leap out of the way, but they got to her first. Kenai went flying over Ali's head. Keanu reached up, pulling her onto the griffin's back. They went faster and faster, Ali letting out a cry of joy while Kenai screamed in horror. "Ali, stop!" Kenai yelped as a giant resting dragon loomed at the bottom of the hill. Ali flung out her talons to attempt to halt, but all her efforts did was send them tumbling into the great emerald beast. The impact was only a poke for the dragon, but it still was enough to gather his attention. "Oof!" The dragon raised his head, shaking it groggily. "Ali, Keanu, what are you doing? I was trying to rest." The beast snorted and looked down between his silver talons, where the young ones lay far below. "Not much, Io," Ali said, looking at him upside down from the crash. "Just a little changer-sledding." "Changer-sledding?" the dragon said, and he bared his giant fangs. "Ali, you know that's not allowed." "Don't blame her, Ionan, it wasn't her fault," Keanu protested. He put a hand on the dragon's hide, trying to get up from the ground, but his quivering legs failed. Ali turned onto her stomach and rose to her feet, putting her head underneath the boy so she could help him stand. "Indeed. It's obvious she can't slick her feathers down by herself." Ionan turned a stern eye on the youngsters, but it was clear he was amused. "And look, you've hit poor Kenai." Kenai jumped up. "Don't bother with me, Ionan. That was great. I only wish they would go changer-sledding more often and bring me along." She wagged her tail. The dragon chuckled. "Shouldn't you be getting home to the pack? They will be hunting soon." "I only came to deliver a message from Dad to Kia." Kenai sat down. "And the pack's hunting here tonight. Our territory has been restricted again. Vixen doesn't want any wolves coming near her unicorns." The word was spiteful and full of hate from the wolf's mouth.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.